all. Did you say?
And it's still 7.
Yeah, good. Am I right? Moving right along then.
Erin informed us that she is not going to be here tonight, and she is not. And with that, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. I'll motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. I have no comments tonight. So we'll move on to call to the public.
A question? Last month, not last meeting, but last month, the Planning Commission read a letter from Joel Buurma out loud to everyone, where Joel said that it was at the request of the township that this project became as big as it is. Theresa said something similar on Tuesday, that the size of the project is based on a working group conversation that she had with you guys. I'd like to know, Tammy's the only one who answered my email. She said the Planning Commission did not make that request. I would like to know from the board if that request came from the township, if it came from the board, if it came from any of you individually.
All right. We'll address that at the end of the meeting.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
We have the letter from our neighbor, that they would like some action taken. Do you want to read it out?
Yes, it can be read. I'll read it.
Yeah. You want me to read?
You want to read it?
That doesn't have
Or
to-
paraphrase it. I mean,
Yeah, I think she would like the traffic has increased tremendously from the pickleball court, as well as the noise, as well as there's been some damage to the trees. They would like the fence, the tree removed that separates the fence line, I guess. The fence extended all the way along the property line, and then a row of trees planted on the other side of the property. She would like a privacy fence put up, and then another row of trees put on the inside of the private, like on our side of the privacy fence.
Yep. And if you like, I can talk to her on it. I personally don't think it's an unreasonable request if we want people to continue to use the park and grow it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will get with her.
Okay, thank you.
And with that, if there's no other call to the public.
I have something
Oh,
in
sorry.
regards to Shannon's, if you don't mind. In regards to the dogs without leashes, I don't think we should allow that. When they came to put the tent up the other night, I got yelled at to close the fence because the lady let her dog off her leash. I'm like, we're bringing a tent in. I can't do that right now. I said, you're on public property. You really should have control of your dog anyway.
Right.
I bring my dog here and I don't let it off the leash. I don't think it's public property. Yes, we're fenced in, but who's to say a good dog doesn't turn bad? I've seen signs all over up north, which I really like. You know, all dogs need leashes, even good dogs, you know,
Right.
sometimes have lapses. And I agree with that. And as a dog owner, as just a taxpayer, not let alone an employee of the township, I think it's in our best interest that dogs should not be just running willy-nilly in our park.
Doesn't the sign say that dogs have to be on a
It
leash?
does. I mean,
Well, she claims she talked to you, Julie.
To me?
Yeah, and I didn't get a chance to talk to you about it this afternoon. She said that as long as she had control of her dog, she was fine. And I said, I don't think so, but like I didn't have time to argue with her the other night either. But I made her put the leash back on the dog. But I think the sign over there, I believe, says keep control of your dog.
And the sign here says keep your dog on leashes.
It does.
Yeah, so I think we need to reiterate, and she's not the only one I've seen her dog just wandering. There's been some obnoxious dogs in here just working, not even bringing my dog here, just running around and I mean, I have a very good dog, but there's a chance if she thinks somebody's gonna pet her, she's gonna go. And I just don't think it's safe.
Well, we can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know in the past it was more a case handled informally, like yours, probably what she told you. If you're the only one in the park and you have your dog not on a leash, it wasn't a big deal.
Right, but now we have so much more traffic.
Being under control means it's your responsibility to get your dog on a leash,
Right.
right? I mean, so for her to be yelling because you left the gate open because her dog wasn't on a leash,
Yeah.
that's way out of line.
Well, she wasn't like mean about it, but I just don't, with the amount of traffic we have in this park now, with the amount of little kids that are coming to play, I just don't think it's a great idea to have your dog off a leash on public property.
Well,
So.
then yes, I guess it's more appropriate signage, if it's additional signage,
Yeah.
we can do that.
They don't listen to the same anyways.
They can't get upset if they get
Well,
called
not
out
yes.
on it at least, right?
And we can't be held responsible.
Right. So,
But, yeah, I mean, even Shannon brings it out, which
right, yeah. I saw
she
that.
doesn't need dogs in her yard either,
Right,
so,
okay.
just my 2 cents.
No? All right. Yeah, I guess, look at the signs and I guess we can just discuss outside as to what we think would be the right way to go, and if there are more signs, or different signs, or whatever. So, put them all along the path.
Entrance when you walk through the gate.
Do you have your boot bag? Do you have your leash?
Right?
Checklist.
So, all right. With that, we'll move on to adoption of the regular minutes from April.
Motion to adopt April's minutes?
Second.
Moved and supported to adopt the April 17th minutes. Any discussion or corrections? And then no discussions, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Motion carries. And Julie, clerk's report.
We had, during April, the township received 32 hours of dedicated service. This included 33 self-initiated calls for service, 3 dispatch calls for service, and 4 traffic stops, which resulted in 1 arrest, 1 report, and 1 citation being completed. Friday, April 4th, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., they had 4 building checks, 6 subdivision patrols, 1 motorist assist, 1 patrol information, and 1 public service. And then Thursday, April 10th, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., 8 subdivision patrols, 3 building checks, and 5 area checks. On Thursday, April 17th, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., 2 subdivision patrols, 2 building checks, 3 traffic stops, and 1 citation. And then Saturday, April 26th, from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., 3 subdivision patrols, 1 traffic stop, 1 report, and 1 arrest. The only other thing is I did receive word from the county that there will be a Stockbridge November 4th school election. So, start thinking about that. So don't let the hall out.
You told me not to mark it in the calendar yet.
Yes. Well, it's a Tuesday, hopefully.
All right.
There's no early voting necessary for that, so.
Really? Because that was gonna be my next question.
Federal.
The only state and federal
Only
elections
state.
require nowadays for early voting. So it's only the every 2 years election.
Right, nice.
Good.
That's all I have, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, treasurer report.
So, if you look on your sheet, everything is moved, just like I discussed last month. We have money in the ICS money market, So that's a new one that you see on there. The next one, the CDAR is also on there, there's 2 CDARs on there. Those will be the new ones that you see on your sheet. We are also up to 1,168 carts, which I believe we ended last year with like 1,380. So we're pretty close. Pretty much if you haven't paid already, you're not gonna pay until we shut your trash off, is what I'm down to, so it was good.
Which is when?
That's up to Granger when they
Okay.
start shutting people off. Cart delivery day is Thursday, in case anybody did not get their new cart or their second cart. That seemed to be that was a hot topic this year. Oh, for the escrow, today I received the paperwork on that escrow for DTE will be $3,500 lower because we did receive a land plans bill, but I didn't receive it till today, so.
You might need to, I apologize.
Need to add a little bit more to that?
I have Harris's bill too, and I'm.
Perfect,
it
it'll be
wasn't
on,
right in my-
we'll put it on next month's report then.
Okay.
Excellent. That's it, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Amanda. And with that, we'll pay the bills.
I will make a motion that we pay $53,970.51 in township bills.
Second.
Moved and supported. Any discussion on the bills?
Just that some of that will get reimbursed because some of that is escrow, and that includes, the 3,500, 35 of the 4,500 for land plan was for DTEs. And then some of the, Harris and the Tursky bill, maybe, I have to look at the Harris and the Tursky one. That's my only comments on that.
All right. I guess then we'll call the roll.
Daily, aye. Miller,
Miller, aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Bonville,
Aye.
Jason?
Sure. So the school board asked if we could meet to talk over the new rec agreement. They had a couple of things that they wanted to change to it. However, none of them were really like functional changes to it. They were just a couple of clarification points. So we met over that. Like one of the things they want to make sure that they had talked a while ago about offering the rec director, the middle school athletic director job duties as well for extra payment. So they wanted to make sure that with our contract saying that we were considering him full-time, that would still be allowed as long as it didn't, reflect on what he was doing for the recreation department or it didn't hurt what he was doing for it. So they were just wanting to make sure that that was allowed because of the full-time. They were afraid that the wording in here would make it so that the school board couldn't pass the budget if the rec board didn't have those complete. So they just wanted to make sure that that was called out. So there's a couple of small wording changes on that. Since none of it was reflecting any material changes to it really, Matt Stewart was going to have the board vote on it and then submit those requests as an addendum both to all of us and back to the school board. Just because he wanted to make sure that was in place before the school board's budget year started up. And that would take place the following year as permanent additions to it. So nothing that they had in there was any concern. It was just some clarification on dates, some clarification on things like that. So I'd expect that there's probably an addendum coming sometime after the school board meeting, maybe a month or two, to possibly cement those into that. The only other thing that came up about it is that the rec department, now that we have the new contract in place, is asking about funding for the January to July period where things weren't in place. I expect that they're going to be sending a letter requesting some of that funding based upon what the expenses or what their budget was for it. And I know that there's probably a bit of a gap as well for us because we're kind of switching from post-paying the bill to prepaying it for the entire year. So if it's not in the budget, I understand it's not enough for what they're requesting. I don't know what that will be yet. I told Julie that we're probably expecting a letter. It hasn't come yet, but I think it will be coming shortly requesting some of that. If there's anything left in the budget, I hope we can help them out for that time frame because I I think they tried to keep their fees as if they're expecting some sort of the same level of funding, so I think it's gonna hurt if we don't. And I don't think our plan is ever to leave it stuck for that January to July, we just didn't know what we could do for that time until we get something in place, so. Just a forewarning that that's coming up, and that's about all we have.
So-
Their dates are January to January, their funding dates.
Well, their new dates are going to be July to June 30th. But because the last ones were running January to January, there's a gap where we didn't actually have a contract in place from January to this upcoming July.
So we're expecting a bill this July for the next year.
Yes,
And
a request.
the request for
that kind of
funding from
thing.
January to July.
Mhm.
So there's an additional 6 months that we may not have a budget for.
Right, which probably comes from last year's, depending on when they get it to us, if there was anything left. But I think we were pretty close to pushing that budget already, which was even more of a problem for a couple of the other townships. If I remember the lineup of the timing on that anyways, kind of our budget was what we paid.
So what we just paid, that was
That
for
was for-
July to December?
Yes.
Yeah, we don't have enough schedule in the budget for insurance, because we were just planning.
Right.
Well, we planned on
Basically,
a
gonna
year,
look for a
not a
year
year
and
and
a
a
half.
half.
Yeah.
Yeah, this year. So,
Yeah, so I know that some of the townships were much closer or even over budget on what they already planned, so it might be harder, but if there was anything or any possibility, you know, I'd like to see them get what they have there, because I think it's gonna hurt them quite a bit otherwise.
okay. And that won't be till July, until they send that?
They're going to look at what their expenses were for this period and what their projected expenses are, or some expenses are up through June, and they're going to send a letter to the township saying this is what we spent and this is what we were, basically a mini, budget of what we've had up to that point, and saying this is the funding level we're expecting to contribute to it. So it's a request at that point for what they're missing. And along with it, they said they're also going to get the participant percentage too, so we will, if it were a bill sent to us, we would know what our amount would be. So I think it's gonna be the same thing to all the townships.
Well, that's what I'm guessing.
Yeah.
They're just gonna base it off of what we're going to and then apply it back and then every year.
I think so.
Okay. All right. That's it?
That's it.
Thank you, Jason. Amanda, firewood.
Fire board, yes. The chief and I attended a special meeting at Handy Township, because when we originally built the building, we were assessed 5 sewer REUs, which would equate to 25,000 gallons a month in sewage. We paid that under protest, and their ordinance reads that after 2 years, you can come in and ask for that to be looked at again. So over the course of 2 years, the most we ever had in sewer was just almost 8,000 a month. So we have not come anywhere close to the 25,000 a month. However, Handy Township's ordinance reads that they take 1 peak daily flow, your highest daily flow peak day, and then they multiply it by 30 and do the formula. So they don't take your biggest month, they take an individual day and however much it's water that they then convert to sewer. That's how they then recalculate your REUs. I never in a million years thought we would have a day, one day that would be, if our highest month was only just barely 8,000,
Right.
I thought there's no way we'd have a day that, but I was wrong. Apparently on November 18th of 2023, I believe it was, which just happened to be buck pole day. So our first buck pole at the brand new station, And Buckpole is extremely well attended. I mean, it was a big deal at the old station, and I can only imagine that it was an even bigger deal at the new station, because people wanted to see the new station. Also on that day, we had a combine catch on fire that then caught the field on fire. So we pretty much had all the equipment out there. So when the equipment comes back, it all has to be washed. So our peak day, that was it, and the RUs for that day figured out to 8. So 8 RUs is 40,000 gallons a month, comes out to about 500, and they flat bill us. They bill us $61.50 per RU. So no matter how much our water we pay for by the gallon, the sewer we pay by the RU. So we're now paying close to $500 a month in sewer fee. Plus we are now going to have to pay another 3 RUs of connection fee at $11,100 a piece. So that's another $33,000.
Because of the 8 RUs?
Because of the 8 RUs, because they have, they voted 3-2 to increase us to 8 RUs. Their reasoning, I guess, would be that eventually the line that goes out there will need to be repaired. So they need money to set aside to repair that line when it eventually needs to be repaired.
So they've established an account to put our money into?
Apparently, it is the sewer account. Obviously, I was very upset about this decision. As the meeting went on, I was like, oh my gosh, I'll be happy just to keep the 5 REUs now. But it's not how Handy Township chose to see it. So, that is unfortunately where we are with Handy Township.
That is crazy.
I agree, because
One day usage.
and our sewer goes to the village. Like, the village has a contract with Handy, and they charge Handy per gallon, or, of sewage that they then take into their plant there at the village. But, the theory is they need to be able to have enough capacity for the day when we use 40,000 gallons in sewage. I don't think that day will ever come. We would have to have a buck pole and a major fire every day. Big party at the fire station and a big fire every day. So needless to say, I have since been in a closed meeting with the fire authority. So I'll keep you updated.
Scary. So they're basically saying that their base rate that they're charging people, if they were charging for their use of the sewer on an average basis, which it should be, doesn't cover their cost.
Yes. Which,
We need to scalp the fire department
yes,
so that we can be sure we can fund.
yes, I feel a little bit like the taxpayer money that, I mean, we're not it's the fire department. We're not a not for profit entity. It's taxpayer money that people voted to support their fire department that we are now paying to Handy Township for the sewer.
Right.
Is how I look at it. I don't.
That's pretty bad.
I'm all right with paying a fair rate, and I understand that you need to put aside money to repair a sewer line that is probably 20 years old.
But that should be in there. That should be in the
But
basic
that
rate.
should be in your basic rate.
Right.
Yes, it should be in your. It's not like, oh, now we got to charge everybody from this point on.
Right.
It's everybody who uses it.
Right.
So, Like I said, I
can understand.
was very upset with what happened, and I pretty much had to pull Chief out of the end of the meeting because he was even more upset, so. Understandably.
All right.
I have a meeting next week, so I'll report back next month. Thank you.
Wait,
Oh, sorry, oh, I totally, see, I got all,
Sorry.
it's okay, it's all right. All right, it's been a quiet month as far as visits from the fire department out at this township. Well, I guess 10 medicals isn't really that quiet, but we've had 10 medicals. We've had 1 motor vehicle accident with no injuries, and 2 dispatched and canceled en route. So for a total of 13 calls out to Iosco Township.
All right.
Now I really am done. Thank you, Julie, for catching that.
All right, Matt, planning commission.
The land planner and Ann were able to come to some understandings to the sign ordinance. PC adopted a trigger ordinance and is passing it along to the township for approval or denial. The PC tabled decisions on the additional conditional rezone for both solar projects until the June 10th meeting, until legal counsel goes over it. And the master plan review for chapters 1 and 2 are complete, and we'll be going over chapters 3 and 4 on May 20th at 7 p.m. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Yeah.
I have issued 16 permits for the year. Of those, 4 of them are for new houses. And in addition to those 16 permits, I have issued 4 waivers. The complaint on Bradley Road is progressing nicely.
Cool. All right, thank you. Unfinished business, nothing. New business. A resolution for, do you want to explain this, Ann?
I can explain it. Arcadia Estates has building envelopes, which are negotiated during the site plan review and all that, and you have to be certain feet mandatory away from the property lines. Most of them are the same up there. I made the mistake of issuing a permit outside of a building envelope on a lot that never in a million years, I honestly thought had different setbacks, but it did. So basically this resolution acknowledges that I accidentally made a mistake, that we're not gonna make them move the house. It's not detrimental to the development, and then they can continue their construction.
So these are just setbacks that are they're more, like more than what our regular setbacks
No,
are?
a lot of the times they're less than what we require in our normal ordinance, but they're negotiated because of getting the smaller lot with the more open space.
Oh, okay.
So this lot in particular that I accidentally approved, is actually on an easement. It's not even on the main drag in Arcadia Estates, so it doesn't affect the aesthetics of the development.
Yeah, no one's gonna drop by it.
Yeah.
bless you.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution to accept the consent to construct resolution number 2025-05.
I'll second it.
Moved and supported, any just further discussion? If not, call the roll.
Oh, it's because it's a resolution? Bongo?
Aye.
Daily, aye. Parker?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
And with that, we'll go into board member comments. Matt, you're up first.
I got it.
All right. Julie?
I do not have any.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I skipped Amanda.
I just should switch it, because you always do that.
I know. Because I'm looking this way at Matt.
Well, you have the power to do that, Julie.
I do
You
indeed.
could,
I think I will.
I'm sorry, you can go first though. Did you
I
have?
have nothing.
I am looking to get some bids for our puzzle shed. Where we decided to put it, that stump needs to come out, and it's more work than I have time to do this summer. So I am currently I'm in the process of getting some bids for someone to come in and clean that spot out and put the shed there.
All right.
So if you have any suggestions for people that you'd like me to.
It's stump removal that needs to be done?
It's that stump for that tree that's growing right up against the side of the building. I think it came off the river birch that was, it shouldn't be there. It wasn't planted there. And then a couple of those shrubs will have to come out. And it's all that landscape rock. So we're gonna have to decide if we want pavers or if we want some more cement work done there to make it accessible in the front. If anybody has any input for what you'd like me to tell them to bid when they do bid it out, that'd be great.
What's the time frame you're thinking for the shed itself?
I want to get it done before winter,
It's a good goal.
so I figure if I start now
Yes, it will
and,
happen.
then get
All right.
enough, if I can get anybody, willing to bid it, and do it, that would be great. But yeah, that's my, because the shed is still sitting in a box in my backyard, so
Okay.
because I bought it last year with all intentions of us getting it up, and it didn't happen, so.
Okay.
That's it, thank you.
Well, I'm not gonna sign up for it at this point.
No, I don't think any of us know. That's why I said, if anybody had ideas for people who would.
Comments, I guess I'll just address Kim's question. Did anyone from the township request the addition of land? That's kind of a blunt way to put it. I would say no.
Okay.
It came through as a discussion on what's going to happen to this land if it were to be released. And I think Theresa touched on that as part of her comments on Tuesday night, where she said, yes, it could be picked up from other developers. They would not have use of that land. So I mean, in our coffee chats, in fact, even Erin made the comment that, in her memory at least, that it was actually DTE that kind of mentioned this for us to consider, right? And we did consider it, because it is a real thing. I mean, the people that lease that land have leased that land, right? I mean, if it's cut loose, individuals, frankly, some of them, and I would fully expect that, yeah, they're gonna make a call to supplier B, right? Because they know that there's another avenue to make this happen, right? Be that state siting. And so that kind of began the discussion on that small group that Julie, myself, and Erin, before she was a trustee, when she was elected, but not sworn in, took part in, where the discussion was along the lines of how unobtrusive can this be that would allow that land to be locked up so that, but as unobtrusive as possible, right? And in essence, that's what's ended up with the 227 acres or whatever of panels that they talked about on Tuesday. That's the end result of that.
Can I say something?
Sure.
The way it was stated by Joel and even Theresa on Tuesday, it appeared that they were shifting responsibility for that decision entirely back to the board. That's how it would appear.
I agree. When I read your email, I said, I'm not touching this right now, because it's really easy, right, in text or in conversation to make a comment that sounds cut and dry, right? And it wasn't. That was a discussion that happened over time as a concern,
right? And it went both ways. You know, we knew what they wanted, and we knew what we didn't want, but it's kind of like, how much protection could we get for the township, right, going forward? And that's kind of the avenue that our small group looked at. It wasn't a case of trying to provide more solar energy. It was just a case of the west side of Bull Run is really is the worst side from the standpoint of aesthetics and impact on the township. So long-term, how do we mitigate that, right? And we just felt that going that avenue was the way to do it. And that's it.
That helps quite a bit, because it did sound cut and dried from both of those statements.
I agree.
Okay.
So, and I guess, yeah, that's my only comments. With that, we'll go to call to the public. Yes, sir.
Say the solar comes in, what's gonna happen if more want to come in, being that they already have a setup? Is it gonna continue to get larger and larger around?
Well, if you're asking me personally, as one member of the board, I can tell you that we had an individual there Tuesday that I know was expressing concerns to the planning commission about people coming in, right? DTE coming back, another person coming in, not honoring this agreement. I think it was pretty clear, the attorney said that, this is the agreement. They're not gonna be able to break the agreement without coming to the township, making an additional application, having the township review it, and either saying yes or no. Would I foresee the township ever saying yes again? No. I mean, the purpose of this will still be the concept of an overlay districts, right? It's just that this would include that west side of the road also. It doesn't mean another developer, or even DTE, I guess, 10 years from now. I mean, Emily at that Tuesday meeting, she's not in a position to say no for DTE, right? She can't say, yes, I'll sign a paper that says DTE will never, ever come back in. That's just not realistic to expect an employee of a company like besides a DTE to take on that kind of a comment. She'd be lying if she said that, right? She doesn't have that.
Well, just on that.
But DTE or anybody else could come in and pick another place in the township and turn in an application. And at that point, the township can just say no. I mean, that is all we can do. Now, the whole lawsuit thing, in the 428 and 429 bills that, okay, realistically are not gonna get through the Senate, but, if they don't, who knows what's gonna happen with PA 233, right? So that's still gonna be an avenue that somebody could take that, unfortunately, we can't prevent. I mean, I can't sit here and say that there would never ever be another development in our township, because the state could continue to take control away from us, right? I mean, all I can do is say
that would be just like saying no now. It's a totally different scenario because there's nothing here yet, right? You know what I mean?
Correct, yes.
Being that, okay, we already did this for you and we're done. They would say, well, okay, you did, so.
Well, are you talking about
Hopefully.
DTE? Because that's in
Or
the
any-
contract.
or
For
anybody.
DTE, it does matter though, because DTE in one of those amendments says that they won't. And Mike Homier said that is legally binding. So DTE cannot expand outside the fence without board approval.
But along the line of your comments there is part of the MPSC's review is looking at what the township's done.
Yeah.
Right? So yes, I would be hanging my hat a lot on challenging the MPSC. If somebody wanted to go around us in the future,
We can fight them.
to fight them, because
we're
we would have gone way over what our
initial.
Homier and other township you know, demonstrated need concepts are, right? I gotta believe we'd have a good case.
Okay,
I mean, but,
well, that answers my question.
so. Yes.
First of all, I don't ever want to misrepresent, so I want to clarify. I in a million years wasn't intending it to come across as if you as a township wanted DTE to submit for more solar. I think that in several meetings leading up to that meeting, there were sidebar conversations and statements made, and possibly even stopping into the township and saying, if we release this land, just so you know, and I think some landowners had already said that, if we release this land, if we can't use it, and if we can figure out how to make the 900 acres work, and we're still not sure that we can't, but we don't think we can based on the LCOE. But if we figured out a way how to make the initial overlay work, if you vote yes on that, if we figure out, and you vote no on the other, let's just say that's the option. If we figure out, and we would look at that, and we're still looking at, there's just variables that I can't get into here that are not allowing us to 100% know if we can make that work. If we can't make that work, then state siting is our only option. We were asked what would happen with the other land if we don't do anything with it. And the answer is that would be released. We can't continue to hold on to it. We only have the ability to hold on to it until they expire to begin with. That being said, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that I recall at the meeting where the ordinance was adopted, there was a motion made to, and you asked us at that meeting, both Emily and myself and Aaron was in the room, if we would consider a small group meeting where we would get together. Not that you were saying you were going to give us the ability to add more, you wanted us to add more, but have a discussion about what that looks like in the event that there could be something that could work. You didn't promise us anything. None of those meetings that we had from a small group perspective stated that if you do this, then we will do this. There was none of that. But from those meetings, we tried to come up with the least amount of land that we would need to make the LCOE work for a utility scale project that would then tie up, and the landowners that signed the land probably don't love this, right? But that's okay too, it is what it is. But that could still keep that land tied up so that another developer can't come in and use that land. And I think that was some of the dialogue and the discussion. But I do remember at that meeting, you guys asking if we would be willing to sit down and talk through what happens if you can't make the 900 acres work. So I never meant to misconstrue and say, you guys wanted us to meet with you so we could add land. So if that was my
comment. The comments in the
comment.
meeting that established the group was based on previous communication.
Yes, and so if I misstated that on how, if it wasn't clear when I was speaking on Tuesday, I just want to clarify that right now, that I did not mean that you guys asked us to come in and sit down so we could make a bigger project. It was, let's talk about what happens from a community perspective, and if you guys say no, what's going to happen with that land. So that is where the smallest amount of acres that we could figure out how to make work from a LCOE standpoint, that's where all those large setbacks came in, that kind of being tucked down there where there's smaller setbacks from the road. There's signed land across the street that we are agreeing not to use that is owned by a landowner. That's why those setbacks are not as great over on that side. But anyway, I probably am over my time, so I apologize, but so appreciate the time. So.
Yeah, thank you. Chris?
Greg?
That's okay, that's okay. So I think first, I asked a couple of meetings ago for the fiscal year 24-25 financial statements.
Yep, City of Howell, you wanted me to look up City of Howell?
No, I just want yours.
No, I looked up what they have on their website. You just said end of year financials and you were not specific. You just said end of year financials.
Fiscal statements, your fiscal.
And you gave me the example of City of Howell. They have their budget, their audit, and a 2019 good job letter is what they have.
Yeah,
Our audit is in June. I will ask them for an electronic copy
That's
and
fine.
put it on the website.
That's fine,
The
that's all.
budget, I believe, is already on the website, but
Yeah.
it does not include the road that we just approved at the last
No,
meeting.
I'm just looking for the fiscal year last year, right? That's really, in the balance sheet, the income statement, cash flows, whatever. That's all. Excellent, thank you. Wonderful, so June?
June is the
July.
audit. Now, they'll come in, they'll do the audit. We usually don't get the results for, I mean, that was the
But-
old audit. I don't know when the new auditors, like how fast they are.
So,
I would say end of summer.
so does that mean that your financial I'm sorry, but your financial statements aren't done sooner? They're not, you have to get them audited first and then you
You
file?
wanted the audit. I'm not gonna put bank statements on the website.
No.
And our budget's on the
Just-
website,
yeah,
and the
you're-
balance sheet is on the
Yeah, you
website.
normally put, at the end of the year, I assume on every quarter, but every year, and end of the year, you have a balance sheet year end, then you have an income statement year end, and then you have a cash flow. That's all I'm looking for. I
Okay,
don't
that,
need,
it's all on the budget. I guess,
no,
Greg, you're gonna have to be, Greg, this is a government, so I need like a specific example then of
So
what
you
you're
know how
looking
your
for.
balance sheet has assets, liabilities, and
Yeah.
equity, right?
Yeah,
So what are those pieces of those elements, and what are the amounts?
so you wanna know what our equity is, like what the
I wanna
building,
know
you want a
what your-
list of the
I want
buildings and
to know your
things?
balance sheet. So there's cash, and there's land, and there's building, and there's depreciation, and there's amortization, and then there's liabilities, your payables, your receivables.
I don't think we have anything like that,
So you don't have,
do it.
is that what you're saying, you don't
Yeah.
prepare like financial statements?
not like what you're talking about.
Oh.
No, like this isn't a company,
No,
you know?
well,
But
I
nobody,
mean-
nothing, so we're governed
Sorry.
by the state overall, right?
Right.
So the state requires that we have a balanced budget. There's nothing, and the state governs what fiscal responsibility we have, what reports we have to do, what kind of reporting we have to do to the
Okay.
state, to the Department of Treasury, and none of that is required. Our insurance agent tells us we have to do a depreciation, our insurance agent does
right.
the depreciation stuff for the building, but that's for insurance purposes.
So,
And the rest of that stuff,
so maybe I'm looking for the
Depreciation
auditors.
is for tax purposes.
No,
We don't
not
have
for-
taxes.
No, you're missing, it's the financial health of the township. So when you look at the balance sheets and liabilities in your equity, there's ratios, and those
yeah, that's
ratios.
not how we work.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
So then so it must be the auditor's report, then the auditor report says, okay,
Yep. if
you
you're
guys
healthy or
are
not.
good
Yep.
you're financially healthy,
Yep.
you're in a good zone, or wait a
Yeah.
second, you're in the yellow zone here, and you need to
Absolutely.
create more taxes or whatever you have to do to create, so that's all I'm looking for. I'm looking for the financial health.
Yeah,
of the
so I can
township.
get you the audit report. So because of our population, we're only required to be audited every other year.
Okay,
And so, this year is our audit. And then I have the audit report from
Previous year.
23.
perfect.
So I'm happy to give you a copy of the
Yeah.
23 audit. And then, like Amanda said, this is our first audit with PH&P. And I believe it might be July actually is when our audit is. I'd have to look at the
Okay,
calendar.
well, when
Or
it's
August.
when it's available,
Yeah.
it'll go on the
Fair
And
enough.
website.
he will come
Fair
to the
enough.
meeting
So-
too and do a whole presentation on
Perfect.
the audit.
Yeah, and
The
Perfect.
results of the audit.
That's all I'm looking for.
the balance
I apologize.
sheet
I don't
is,
know
the
about
balance
that.
sheet is on, I mean, I put last month's balance sheet
Yep.
with the minutes and the
Yep, I saw
agenda.
that.
and That's how much money we have, Greg.
Yep. Oh, that's fair, that's
I
fair.
mean, we have money.
I just know that you're going into something really, really big, right? And there's, I don't know if there's risk or ops related to something big coming into the township that wasn't there before. Because before you were managing just houses and AG land, now you're gonna have to manage a solar farm. If you
But we're
approve it.
not, the township isn't, right? The township is not responsible, that's on private land.
But
That's landowners' land, has nothing to do with the township,
it does.
really. I mean, aside from once the
Right,
approval,
you have to-
do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, but that is not the township's liability, that is on private land.
Right, okay, that's fair,
Yeah.
that's good, that's all I was looking for. And then the other thing was to Matt, or I'm sorry, to you, Joe, asking Matt to, I think we had some Q&As that went to Homier and to Mark that you guys were addressing with on the solar. I thought we were gonna get those back and make that public at the last meeting. Is there not Q&As? I
Is
heard,
that
There
this?
was.
I mean,
It was a couple
Q
months
and A,
ago.
if you want a copy of it, you're welcome to a copy of it.
yeah, that's
I mean,
just interesting.
No, I didn't intend to make that as if people want copies, they can have them. It wasn't a discussion item on the agenda.
No, I'm not, but we had talked about it in the planning sessions before, and then I think I asked Matt if he could possibly make it available to us, that's all. Because it would have been nice to have that prior to the.
Yeah, I mean, I put it together, I mean, honestly, primarily to appease Aaron, right?
Oh, no, I was talking about, there was a set of formal
It is,
cues.
that is what this is.
That is what that is.
Thank you, perfect.
Right.
I must not have caught you saying that to me. I
That's
apologize.
okay, that's okay, no big deal. Sorry, takes so long.
So, but yes, the public's welcome to it.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Oh, I got one.
Okay.
Coon Lake Road tree clearing has started.
Yes.
Thank you. There's been very little disruption to date, but in traffic, but it's all started and it's all going well. Thank you.
Cool.
Did you check on that bridge on Munsell Road?
That bridge is supposed to be by the end of 2026. We'll see. So, that's, it's not an exact date, that's for sure. So. And I don't know if they really, if they're just, you know, putting dates out there on like if things go well, it'll be by then. Because to be honest with you, they thought it would be done sooner than that when it first, you know, started through this downgrading and low limit. So, but that is the latest.
Haven't made it one lane yet, isn't that the next step? Isn't that what happens with
No, it
bridges?
is one lane.
Is it one lane? I don't go down for that far down one. Oh, so we're already to the one
They
lane
put it
step.
at 3 ton, though it was at 2 ton. So they made it 3 ton, but they put it to 1 lane.
Yeah. And then somebody zip tied Chucky down
I
to it.
saw that, yeah,
Good times.
good times.
All right, with that, motion to adjourn,
I'll make a motion to adjourn. 1953.
Second.
moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Thank you for coming.
Greg, do you want me to make those copies? Do you want me to
Oh,
email it?
yeah, I'd love to, email's fine.
Email, is next week okay, or?
Oh,
yeah.
Weeks, just whenever you
I'm
go.
gonna make myself a note.